All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have James Bates actually back on the show. And James is the CEO of AdviNow Medical. Welcome to the show, James, again.
Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So James is actually our first returning guest. We interviewed James, about a year ago when he was launching into AdviNow Medical. So before we dive into all that, though, a little bit more about James. He's an accomplished CEO, entrepreneur, and board member who has created and led high growth execution for several technology companies. Again, he's the CEO and founder of AdviNow Medical, the world's first AI and augmented reality driven automated medical visit platform. He conceptualized the idea, wrote the fundamental patents, raised 20 million in seed funds and capital, and recruited the team and launched the company. He's also a general partner in fintech hedge fund that uses artificial intelligence to deliver market-leading returns. And he's also the managing partner of A Big Capital LLC and invests in technology startups and such. And previously, James was an officer. Sorry, I had a call coming in there. I forgot to mute my phone. James was an officer at Freescale, responsible for $1 billion revenues in self-driving vehicle technologies. Early in his career, he founded Asia Pacific region for Silicon Labs, where he was responsible for driving growth that eclipsed 500 million in just 3 years, and serves on multiple boards and advisory boards. Among them is Positioning Universal, a leader in machine vision fleet management systems that uses AI to track and manage delivery providers. He's also on the board for Arizona State University College in Nursing and AZBIO, organization that promotes biosciences. So, James, great to have you back on the show. Before we dive into everything again, what's one interesting fact about yourself, and maybe it changed since last time, I don't remember what it was, that maybe not many people know?
Well, I can't remember what I said last time, so I'm gonna go with my hiking. I love hiking. I love extreme hiking. So every year I do rim to rim in the Grand Canyon, where I hike from one side of the Grand Canyon to the other side. It's about a 26-mile hike, a mile in elevation change, and we do it all in one day. I love any type of extreme nature type of thing. Nice. So it's my wife keeps thinking I'll die someday, so we have lots of insurance on me to make her happy when that happens. but I really do love it.
Cool.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon is always great for me because it forces me to kind of be in shape and stay in shape. And as you are, as you get really wound up in businesses, you start working, those 100-hour work weeks, they really become a change in lifestyle for you. And if you're not careful, you end up neglecting some things that are really important. So, that has helped. That allows me to do it. And this last year, is very interesting. The Grand Canyon was closed in May. And so we ended up going in September, but it's still very hot at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So I don't know if people are aware, but the bottom of the Grand Canyon is the same temperature as Phoenix, Arizona. So I went hiking. I did my annual rim to rim, and it was 110 degrees at the bottom.
Wow.
And there's a 6-mile hike that has no cover. It's just pure sun beating down on you. And I ended up getting heat stroke for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And so my wife almost got to cash in on that.
Do you have like an umbrella with you type of thing
I totally should have, but I didn't, right? I mean, so usually I run it.
I have a big hat though.
I had a big hat for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool, man. I've never done, I've always wanted to go down and do those like hikes down there. Was it Havasu Falls? Is that one that's
awesome? Havasu Falls, most beautiful hike you will ever do.
I've heard.
Yeah, definitely bucket list item for sure.
Yeah, I've heard you have to sign up for it like a year ahead of time. It's like a draw. And,
exactly.
You see all the pictures on Facebook. You're like, oh my God, that's amazing. It looks like
you gotta go. Well, I mean, you're looking at that water and you're saying that watercolor is not real. I mean, when you see it in the pictures, you're like, oh, they must have used Photoshop on that
filters.
thing.
Yeah.
When you get there,
it's real.
That color blue is real, and it's calcium deposits that kind of make it look that way. But it's just really amazing. I love it.
Awesome. Well, James, you were on the show. I didn't look. It was like 8 months, 10 months ago, maybe a year ago, and you were just launching AdviNow Medical. I think you hadn't even secured any real clients that were solid yet, and now I think you just said you already hit 1 million in recurring revenue. So, take us through what your journey's been in the last year.
Yeah, so the healthcare industry is incredibly painfully slow. So I actually started engaging with a lot of these clients in the health systems, very large hospital systems 3 years ago. And so, but they just started to onboard us about a year ago, and now it's finally turning into revenue now. So it really surprised me and taught me about the industry. I joined healthcare from a different industry, semiconductor slash automotive industry, and my original thought was, well, regulations in automotive is high, regulations in healthcare is high. It'll be the same. It'll be easy. But what I didn't realize is the whole infrastructure of healthcare and how slow adoption is. So we raised a bunch of money thinking that, we would have a year of onboarding that would be required, and it turns out to be 3 years. It forces you to scramble. So we had to continually make sure that we had enough money, had enough cash flow to keep us alive as our large clients are ramping. And the beautiful thing is we have huge clients, who's who in the industry of healthcare, all very interested in reducing the burden on their physicians, cutting the cost of healthcare in half. And they're finally getting to the point where they're large clients for us. So it's been quite a journey, but one that I've loved.
Oh, fantastic. And if you would, I know we explained kind of a little bit more about what your company does and how it differentiates itself last time. If you would, for the new listeners who maybe haven't heard the last episode, what does your company do, and where's your place in the market?
Yeah, so AdviNow Medical uses artificial intelligence to completely automate the medical visit.
Right.
Now, when you say that, it's a very loaded statement, but the AI actually engages with the patient directly. We collect all of the information the doctor will need. We ask every question the doctor is going to ask, the AI does. The AI then places orders for images, labs, sounds, other measurements that will be needed by the doctor to diagnose you. The AI will then guide the patient to go collect that information at whatever location is appropriate. Then the physician opens up a one-page summary about the patient where we have a list of illnesses described with justification based off of peer-reviewed literature, so medical textbooks. And then the physician just has to review the data, confirm key symptomology with the patient, and click on I agree. When they do that, the AI does all of the documentation. One metric that very few people understand is that physicians are the most expensive part of the medical visit, but they only spend 1/3 of their time actually with the patient. Right, 2/3 of their time are spent doing data collection and data documentation activities that aren't required by their licensure. So if physicians that adopt AdviNow, they get to see 2 to 3 times more patients per day than ones that don't. And that allows them to spend time with their patient, more time with their patients, and less time doing the work that they hate. So we really changed the game there, and it's been a phenomenal opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and you're seeing those numbers come through in results with your clients.
Absolutely.
That is seriously game changing. I mean, you've taken something where literally 66% of their day is spent doing data collection, research, and filling out the information, doing all of that, and you've maybe not eliminated 100% of that, but you've eliminated the majority of that.
90% of it, yeah.
90%.
So yeah, the crazy thing here is when you take a physician, you ask them, what do you hate most about your job? They're going to say all the clerical work. And the reality is we've taken a rarity in our society. There's never enough doctors, right?
Yeah.
And we've turned them into clerks. That's what our system has done. And so when you look at it and you'd say, well, how can we stop this? Well, the medical documentation, 50% of it requires medical knowledge. So it requires that somebody understands medicine. They don't need to have a physician's degree. They don't need to be licensed, but they have to have medical understanding. The other half of it requires regulatory understanding. What does a law allow physicians to do? What do they need to do? What's the processes to do? And the other piece of that is, from a payer standpoint, what do they get paid to do and what do they not get paid to do? They don't want to recommend something to a patient that an insurance company is just going to reject. So the physicians learn all that stuff through experience, and then they have the medical knowledge, but none of that requires a medical degree. So we have this whole system, which is just overburdening physicians with things that they hate. Now, 30 years ago, physicians didn't have this problem. This is a problem that's been created over the last 30 years. Before the electronic medical record, physicians would just scribble all of their notes in a piece of paper that's kept, in some cabinet.
Yeah.
And nobody could read it. They would file something to the insurance company, and the insurance company would usually just pay it. That is all changed, and that's not the way things are done today, and physicians pay the price.
Requirements and software, you have to upload this to their so literally then a medical a healthcare facility or a doctor that adopts this, they can literally double to triple their amount of revenue, which also means double to triple their profits, because their overall, right, if you're tripling your revenue but your costs, the amount for that doctor and the amount for the clerical and the people, your service costs, your cost of goods sold, and your overhead all stays the same, you're doubling and tripling your profits, or even more.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, much more than that.
Much more than that.
Yeah, you're 9-10xing your profits.
On average, the average clinic in primary care, urgent care, only has 3% profit if you standardize the P&L. Once AdviNow is adopted, that goes over 30%. So it is 10x the profit.
That makes a lot of sense too. That makes a lot of sense. So in this last year, then, are you when we look at this from a high level standpoint as a CEO of the company, do you have enough clients, or are you is it one of those things where you already have enough clients, now it's just kind of proving it out? Like, where are you guys and what's next?
Well, I would definitely never say we have enough clients. You always want more clients.
Well, I mean, there's lots of companies out there that can get too big for their britches. They just don't have the back end to support new clients, that kind of stuff. Where are you in your growth journey?
We are feverishly trying to onboard the clients. So I can't say that if a client came to us that we would have immediate bandwidth to onboard them immediately. Right. But what I can say is that we're aggressively trying to expand our team such that we can. And so we have our goal is to reduce the cost of healthcare, make healthcare more accessible to everyone, and expand the reach of physicians. And so we're doing everything possible to achieve that goal.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to allow one for every physician that's out there. They're going to be able to see 3 times as many clients.
Exactly.
Because they're 3 times more as effective. They're 10xing their profit. It's a total win-win.
Exactly.
All around.
So we don't want to limit anyone. So we definitely want to onboard them. And it's my job as CEO to expand our onboarding team and automate it in ways that will allow us to do that.
Yeah, which is an interesting conversation, right? Because anybody who's growing the company, that's one of the hardest things that you have to get on board, is because if you try to grow too big for your britches too fast, then your customer service lacks and you start losing clients. So how are you balancing that as you grow? What kind of things what levers are you pulling?
Yeah, so we're focusing on a few major electronic medical record systems to engage with. The major ones, Epic, Cerner, Athena, eClinicalWorks are ones that we have deep integrations with and we can work.
I've heard nightmares about Cerner.
Yeah.
The VA uses Cerner, and they so I shouldn't talk bad about them, but
there's lots of nightmares around Cerner. I would say
that thing drops offline like 2 to 3 times a day. But the VA is a huge, that's a huge colossal thing. So anyways.
But it should not drop offline.
Yeah, it does. It goes offline for like an hour to 2 hours a day with them. Total.
Yeah, that's a disaster.
That's
is how that would be described.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, James.
Yeah. So we focus on the large ones. So some of those smaller EMRs, we do, we do tell clients that we'll have to wait a little bit as we're controlling that onboarding. But for clients who use those larger EMRs, absolutely we can engage and support them in a pretty efficient way.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love it. So what is your growth strategy going forward? You're at 1 million now. When do you think you're going to get to certain milestones, and what are going to
Well,
be?
we track it by monthly revenue. So we expect by the end of next year that we'll be close to $1 million a month in revenue. And that doesn't mean next year's revenue will be, $12 million.
Right. That'll be your run rate though.
That'll be the run rate. And so that's our target, is to get to $1 million a month by the end of next year. And we see we have sufficient roadway to get there. I mean, we've got all the clients lined up. Now it's just a matter of onboarding them, getting them happy, and paying for the product, with the clients that they see.
That's a good problem to have. You already have the clients lined up.
Yep, we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So one of the things you had talked about in the pre-call, kind of the 2 to 3 tangible things that had been keys to your success. One was healthcare, IT, go to market, and the other is product development. Tell us more about those concepts.
Yeah, so the battle that you always have as you're ramping a lot of new clients is that everybody wants something a little bit different, right? So how do you keep a standardized product,
right,
such that everybody is happy? Because as soon as you start fractionalizing your design team and development team, you don't scale the way you should scale. And so that discipline is really our biggest challenge as we are engaging. Now, our clients' IT departments many times have a difficult time understanding specifically what we do and what we bring. They're very familiar with the electronic medical record, customizations of that electronic medical record, but that's kind of where their universe lies, right? Outside artificial intelligence, augmented reality, in a high-level integration, scribing, they don't really understand what all that means. And so they view everything outside their system as a risk to their system. So convincing them that not only are we secure, but we're safe and we're going to make their job easier, just getting them to understand that ends up becoming one of the biggest problems as we're onboarding these large clients.
Gotcha. Well, that's exciting. So going from 1 million to 1 million annual run rate to 1 million a month run rate in a year, that is a lot of growth. But you already have the clients lined up. It's just a matter of getting the back end, the systems, the people, and everything in place to support that.
Yeah, that's right.
And utilizing as much technology and automation
as we can,
corresponding right along with this, the idea and the concept of what you deliver, right? Instead of just using people. Yeah. Is that what's the biggest challenge there? Is that a lot of, do you have a design team that you are internally to AdviNow Medical that's working on software and that automation, or is that something like you're outsourcing?
No, it's 100% owned by us. We have our own design team. Obviously, we do use some outsourced resources, but those resources are managed directly by us and treated as our own individual team members.
Gotcha. Oh, that's awesome. And then my key question, I'm sure we asked it last time, and I'm going to ask it again. What if you were going to hire a CEO to take the reins for your company? What's the one book you'd require he or she read, and why?
Good to Great, right? I mean, Jim Collins is just a classic, and one of the biggest problems that most managers have is because they only understand their universe. That getting that higher view to get people in the right seat on the bus, getting the bus to go in the right direction, and then making sure you get the flywheel going. Those concepts are so fundamental to business, but you'd still end up with people that don't quite get it, right? The problems in front of them today, seeing the forest through the trees, ends up being something challenging that a lot of people end up with. So we're really excited about hiring leaders and getting people who are looking at a holistic view of the company, not just my engineering head is only cares about engineering. He cares about everything. right? One of our greatest values that we try to instill is, number one, ownership. I want every member of my team and any future CEO that I would hire to own the problem.
Right.
That means there's no such thing as 8-hour days. There, you work until the job's done. It means that good enough is never good enough. It has to be the best. It's because you got to own it. It's yours. And then when you start looking at, the second trait, and it's really think like our customer. If you were buying our product and you were treated the way we're treating you, would you be happy? And if in any case you would say, well, that would be annoying, then the empathy that's required to be a good leader doesn't exist, right? If you can't notice that. And so those are really what we look for when we're hiring the leaders. And when you start looking at a book, like Jim Collins puts together, there's a number of great business books that talk about this concept, but there's good profit and there's bad profit. If you're going around raising all your prices so that you get a good quarter, as an example, right, and then you lose all your customers, that's bad profit.
Not sustainable. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever you do has to be sustainable over the long run. And that's really the golden rule.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, James, it was great to have you back on the show, and it's fantastic to follow your journey. We'll have to have you back on, another year from now, or, whatever, 6 months, as you guys keep going, and just, would love to keep having you, if you're up for it, sharing in your journey. Sure. And okay, we made this revelation. This is the stumbling blocks we had. This is what we overcame. We're at 700,000 a month recurring revenue. I think the audience would love to follow your story. It's a phenomenal product. When you look at the ROI, the benefits, you're probably not charging enough. Who knows? What people are getting.
I would love for my clients to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, James, if any of our listeners are potentially doctors or medical facilities that are interested, or anybody that has any questions for you regarding the leadership things we talked about, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is at james.bates@advinow.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. If you do James Bates AdviNow, I'll be the first guy to pop up there, or even on Google, you do the same thing. AdviNow makes my name unique. If you just put in James Bates, you'll probably get a football player. So happy to talk with you. Happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, very good. Well, James, is fantastic having you back on the show. Thanks for being on again.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, and for the listeners, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about what we're doing here. We're helping the next generation of leaders and CEOs be that much more successful. With that, this is your host, Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.